What is going on, everyone? Hitmonchanning here, back again with another video. Today you can see we've got a new layout. I changed things up a little bit. I've been working on making the channel more fresh and new, but regardless of that, today we're going to be covering one of my favorite new cards revealed, Mewtwo VSTAR. It is coming out in our July Pokemon Go set, which I'm very excited. I've been playing that game for a long time. Excited to finally get a TCG set related to it. Mewtwo VSTAR is looking to be really cool and actually very powerful. For 280 HP with a retreat cost of 2, on a stage 2, it's pretty tanky. It's along the lines of the Arceus VSTAR kind of stats, we'll say. And its attacks are really cool as well. Its first attack, Side Purge for a Psychic and Colorless. Discard up to 3 energy from your Pokemon. This attack does 90 damage for each card you discarded in this way. You can do up to 270 damage, 300 if you put a Choice Belt on, and that's absolutely bonkers. Now, that's all well and good, but its V-Star power is one that is absolutely amazing as well. For the same energy cost, this attack does 120 damage to each of your opponent's Pokemon V. So, if your opponent doesn't have Manaphy in play, obviously, let's say you're versing something like Mew VMAX, for example, where all their Genesects are on the bench. Star Raid, 120 to every single V Pokemon in play. Well, your opponent's in play, obviously. That's crazy. That is super good. See, 120 damage isn't enough to take the one shot. However, if you have a Choice Belt and they have a V Pokemon in the active, you're going to be doing 150 to the active, then you're going to be doing 120 to everything on the bench. So combine this with some other attackers, maybe ones that can pull off some spread damage, or we'll see in the list what I have going. It really revolves around using Side Purge to set up those KOs, then bossing up something else to taking more, setting up more damage, and then doing Star Raid for a massive KO, and basically get a board wipe. But how are we going to power this Mewtwo up, you may ask? Well, we'll get to that in a second. For my list, I'm running a 3-2 Mewtwo V, Mewtwo V-Star line. Might as well talk about Mewtwo V really quick here. Nothing special, 220 HP, retreat cost of 2. Psychic and Colors can get you a Super Psybolt for 50 damage. Transfer Break for 160. Psychic Colorless. Move an energy from this Pokemon to one of your bench Pokemon. Not too bad if your setup's a little bit slow and you manage to get those attachments off and you want to spread your energy out a little bit. It's not too bad at all, but mainly you're going to be going for that turn 2 Side Purge. That's usually what your game plan is going to revolve around. Now, to get all these energy into play, I have a bunch of different deck lists. I'm going to tell you right now, I have so many different deck lists that I'm going to make for this card. I have the second one finished already. I have 2 more being built, that I'm tossing around ideas and getting ready. This card is going to be so fun to play. There's going to be so many different ways to play it. That's why I'm so excited. For our support Pokemon, we're going to go with a Shadow Rider build. This is the most obvious version of this deck, but the reason I think the Shadow Rider build will be a lot better, not necessarily better, but a lot more streamlined, is because you can set up a 2-3-2 prize trade with your Mewtwo's and your Shadow Rider, and your Mewtwo's can potentially take out VMAX, or they can one-shot things fairly easily. They can one-shot V-Stars fairly easily, which is something I should say. So we're running a 3-3 line of Shadow Rider. You all know what Shadow Rider does. It'll be up on screen if you don't, but using Underworld Door, we can attach a bunch of energy, and that'll be good. That's all I have to say. That'll power up our Mewtwo's very fast. And I'm running 1 Galarian Articuno with the Cruel Charge ability. When you play it from your hand onto your bench, you may search up to 2 Psychic Energy from your hand, or you may attach 2 Psychic from your hand to this Pokemon. Just an extra way to get some energy in play. You could probably go for a full Galarian Articuno build with a bunch of Cruel Charges, so you don't have to risk getting Shadow Rider bossed into the active and knocked out by Dark decks. That's this deck's biggest weakness, is the Dark type weakness. Everything's pretty much going to get one shot, so you have to expect that, and you really have to surprise your opponent and take the knockouts really fast. For other support, we have Cresselia, just a one-off for the Crescent Glow in case we go second. And then we got a Crobat V, just for Dark Asset. The Crobat, you can kind of swap it with Lumineon if you want, or take it out altogether. Don't really need it. This deck has two big weaknesses. It's dark type decks and Path to the Peak. So if you want to swap out your Crobat / Lumineon for another supporter, by all means, that might be the better idea. Energy-wise, we're running 14 Psychic Energy. It's hefty, but you know what? For Shadow Rider, you really want to get those energies in play consistently. Now for our trainers, everything's pretty straightforward. We're going to run 4 Quick Ball, 4 Ultra Ball. Just for Pokemon Search, that's all we're going to have. 8 cards for Pokemon Search is pretty good when you consider that we're going to have to draw power of Shadow Rider. We're going to run 2 Switch and 2 Air Balloon because I like to have switching cards in case we get trapped by an attack or we're unable to retreat manually. Galar Mine's still pretty prevalent in certain decks, so having the switch option directly is good. And then we're going to run 1 Choice Belt because the Choice Belt it only really allows 1-hit KOs on stuff like, I don't know, some wonky HP kind of Pokemon, you know what I mean? So it's good to have that extra damage output, but might not be needed. You can also try and add in a Telescopic Sight in here, which makes you do 30 more damage to your opponent's benched Pokemon V. So you can actually be doing 150 with the Star Purge. Or Star Raid V-Star power. Now for stadiums, we're going to run 3 Training Court and 1 Path to the Peak. I'm running the 1 Path just so you can kind of pull off a Path Marty combo on Mew, basically, even though Path directly hurts you. But I'm gonna run I'm running mostly Training Court. It's kind of solid in Shadow Rider-esque builds. You run your Training Courts to get your energy back and keep the Shadow Rider train rolling. Now, for other items, before I get into supporters, we're going to have 4 Fog Crystal. These are going to be used to search out Pokemon and or energy, which is really good. And then I'm going to be running Ordinary Rod, 2 Ordinary Rods to be exact, because who doesn't like Ordinary Rod? You know, sometimes you're going to need to discard your Pokemon early on and get them back in your hand later in the game, or back in your deck later in the game, sorry. And your energies as well. Sometimes Training Court just doesn't cut it, a 3 of, right? So 2 Ordinary Rod in this deck I think is pretty standard, just in case to get your energy back. You can also consider cutting 1 Ordinary Rod for a energy retrieval if you want to just get energies right back into your hand. Yeah, that's all I have to say about the Rod. Now we're going to move on to supporters. We're running 4 Marnie and 2 Research. Like I said earlier, you can bump up the Research count to 3 if you want to take out your Crobat. It might be a better play. Depends on what you run into. If you run into a lot of Path to the Peak playing decks, you can definitely afford to take one of those out. Now, for Marnie, that's pretty standard. The thing is with Shadow Rider is you really don't want to get rid of a lot of your cards. That's why I opted to go for 2-4 with Research and Marnie instead of a 3-3, because your stuff gets to the bottom of the deck, fine, use something to shuffle it, and then you have access to all those cards once again. Especially with Shadow Rider, you can amass some pretty big hands, especially if your opponent's out of Marnies. So sometimes having that Marnie option to avoid decking yourself out is really solid. And then we're going for 3 Boss's Orders. Like I said, you can play with Boss fairly often in this deck to try and set up your main strategy. You hit something and you don't knock it out, and then you boss something up, and then you Star Raid and take it out on the bench while leaving something trapped in the active. Which is, it's really good. Because some decks play a very limited amount of switching cards. They'll only play like 2 Air Balloon, or 2 Air Balloon and an Escape Rope and a Switch, or like, once they get through those cards, and if they don't see your strategy right from the beginning, this could be a really, really powerful option. Even, I always think to Mew, because Mew is widely considered the best deck, even though Urshifu's been making a comeback recently. Yeah, another thing, this deck is destroys Urshifu's, just flat out. It just demolishes them. You barely have to discard any energy. You can discard 2 energy and you're taking a knockout, right? So the reason I think Mew whenever I think of building a deck, because Mew has everything all the time. You can boss up something like a 1-prizer, like an Oricorio. If they're limited to their switch options, hit the Star Raid, boom. All their Genesects and Mews on the bench get hit for, in that case, it'd be 100 damage, and that sets them up for anything else, basically one-shotting them. which is really good. Even at the end of the day, you can always use Galarian Articuno's Psy Laser because you discard all Psychic Energy from this Pokemon. It does 120 to one of your opponent's Pokemon. Now, you can set up something with Star Raid, and let's say you want to take out a Crobat or a Luminion or even a Genesect, you know? Take out any basic V Pokemon, really. You could Star Raid first, and then use the Galarian Articuno and take out something else. It's also easy to power up this Galarian Articuno if you don't have, like, all the energy in hand thanks to Underworld Door. It can get it set up if you had to play the Articuno as, like, your first Pokemon and you didn't have access to Cruel Charge, for example. But yeah, your Psy Laser combined with Star Raid is going to be doing 240 damage in 2 turns. So you can really just target anything. And a good thing about the Articuno as well is you can actually go for a 2-1-2-3 prize trade if you really want, leading with a Mewtwo VSTAR, going into a Galarian Articuno, then another Mewtwo VSTAR, and then going into a Shadow Rider Calyrex VMAX to finish off the game. That could be a potential strategy as well. But other than that, that is my list. The full list will be on screen right now, so you can take a look, maybe get it built. I'm actually going to start proxying a lot of these cards. This is a good time, too, to find lists for Shadow Rider, because those Shadow Rider VMAX and Ice Rider VMAX League Battle decks, or whatever they're called, are actually releasing very soon. They're releasing next month, I believe, so if you want to get Shadow Rider and Ice Rider decks ready, I know Ice Rider plus Palkia VSTAR, that will be coming out in our next set, Astral Radiance, is going to be very good. So if you would like to get ready to play some new decks that are fun and you can just kind of get something really out of the box with all the cards you need, definitely check out those products. I am probably going to pre-order my Shadow Rider VMAX deck very soon in preparation to build this Mewtwo, because this Mewtwo looks a lot of fun and I really want to open up that Pokemon Go set extensively. So there are a lot of other cool cards that are being revealed. I will make more early deck lists because I think it's really fun to strategize about what the meta is going to evolve into. Anyway, guys, that is going to be it for this video. Like this video if you enjoyed. Subscribe. I'm gonna be, like I said, I got a lot more Mewtwo decks. I got a lot more other decks. I got a lot more gameplay coming out. We got a lot more going on. So subscribe to the channel if you would like to do so. And leave a comment, let me know what you would change in this deck. The only other thing that I didn't mention that I think I would change is you can maybe add in a 1-1 Whimsicott, but that might be cutting it a little bit too tight. But let's say you want to take out your Cresselia Articuno for a 1-1 Whimsicott V-Star line. You absolutely could do that just to give you a little more flexibility for playing against something like a Urshifu VMAX, and you want to lock them out of special energy from the hand. A Whimsicott might just allow you to auto-win that matchup. So there's just little things like that to consider, but I really think this list is pretty solid. It took a lot of time into putting it together. And anyway, guys, thanks very much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.